those who are girls, they are not born with a potential for beards. Correct? So why should God have created this difference if beards didn't mean anything? See? There has to be reason for that. So if God has gone into such, designing and later on implementation of those scientific designs so that all male members have beards and all female members do not have, then there has to be some wisdom, some purpose for that. And if we totally shave off our beards, then somehow we forget that purpose. It's not permitted to play a role. Now this becomes further complicated if you look at the whole body and how it's made. But this is a question which, if I expand, you will not be able to. And if I give answer to all the relevant questions, this is not yet time for you to understand all these things. But I know that as far as those parts of the body which are exposed to vision, whatever nature has provided them with, it should be kept as such. Trimmed, of course, but not entirely removed. Okay? Wa alaikum salam.
Why do you have to have mosques? Why can't we pray at home?
Mosque भी जाना तो जरूरी.
Why do we have to have mosques?
I got it. Yes. You see, there are two things to a man's life. One, community participation, and one, private individual participation. Islamic system of prayer provides both these urges in man. Man has an urge to live in communes and in society, and many an institution of human beings are congregational, where various men are involved, like so many activities, team works, group works, and so on and so forth. But there are some activities of man which are individual, where man does not want others to interfere with. When you retire to your own work, when you retire to your own room and your bed, etc., you don't want interferences, do you? But in schools, you all go together, and it's an open community affair. So God has provided for all these natural urges in man, also in designing our religion. Our religion is natural. So prayers also are divided into two parts. Some are congregational, where community prayers are set together to fulfill the urge in man to do communal works together along with others. And the other urge is to remain individual. So all our nafil, all our private prayers at homes become individual. So it is not one at the other's cost. It is both existing simultaneously. So mosques are for community purposes and homes are for individual purposes. You also say prayer at home as well as at the mosques, right? There are many reasons why it is made essential for us to go to mosques 5 times a day if possible, if there is a mosque near at hand. But that will become a very long subject. I have already spoken on this subject at some length, and if you possibly can lay your hands to such a cassette, then you will have all the answers to the question. You see, there are so many reasons why congregational prayer is made essential. All right? Thank you.
Have a mosque here. Why do they build mosques in other parts of countries?
When we have a mosque here, why do they build mosques in other parts of the country?
Other parts of the same country or other countries of the world? What are you talking about?
Other countries.
Other countries.
Other countries in the world. When you have a mosque here, why should you have mosques in other countries? Is that the question? Do you eat here in this country? Do you drink here in this country? Do you play here in this country? Why should people in other countries also drink and eat and play? Answer this question and then I'll answer yours. Okay? Have you got the answer? Not yet. Some will have to rub it in you. The answer is obvious. When you fulfill your requirements here, why should other people do theirs? Why should not other people in the world fulfill their spiritual requirements like you fulfill your spiritual requirements here in England? You're equal, they have every right to do as you have a right to do here. Okay? The question is answered, but what makes you so sad about the whole issue? Why do you feel so depressed about it? Excited? Okay. Well, you can leave in peace now. Thank you. He is your brother?
Ji.
Right.
Assalamualaikum. I'd like to ask you 3 questions. Right. The first question is, the day at this time of year, the days are getting shorter.
Yes.
And once you are at school, and then you're coming back. The time gets to Maghrib prayers, and you haven't read your Zohar and Asr prayers. Are you allowed to read your Zohar and Asr prayers?
You see, if you're in your schools, you can have the prayers said separately, then you should do it. If the time arrangement in the school does not permit you to say Zohar and Asr prayer separately, and if you have the fear that you may miss one prayer altogether if you don't say them together, then there is no harm in saying Zohar with Asr in the school during the period when the days are too short, and when you genuinely fear that if you delay the performance of Asr prayer until you reach home, then you may miss it altogether. It's much better to have it set together instead of missing one. Okay? The second question?
Are we allowed to read namaz in a non-Ahmadi mosque?
You are allowed to say namaz, not read namaz, to say or perform namaz in any mosque in the world and outside the mosque as well, but not behind a non-Ahmadi imam, because the non-Ahmadi imam rejects the imam of this age who is appointed by Allah. Hadhrat Mirza Tahir Ahmed, has he not been appointed by Allah? You know that? Or don't you? Hadhrat Mirza Tahir is Imam Mahdi, which means he is directly appointed by God himself as the Imam of this age. So if a small Imam has the audacity to reject an Imam appointed by God himself, he forfeits his own right to be an Imam. Don't you see the logic? Right. Third.
My third question is, how often are we allowed to eat food which isn't halal, but not pork, or even pork? Food which isn't pork, but
which is halal. Of course you can eat that if the animal is slaughtered, not otherwise. If the animal is not slaughtered but strangled, like in the olden days, they used to strangle chicken here in England, now they slaughter it. So the blood was not let out. That is haram. Whether it's chicken or any other animal,